there's no more, what would you say, lightning rod in the 49ers Reddit pages, 49ers Twitter, than just the name Trey Lance. There are conspiracy theorists out there who think that Kyle Shanahan was putting him out there to fail. There's others who think that he was playing so much because they're trying to trade him. And then there are others just saying, let the kid play, let's figure out. He didn't play great. He was pressured, though, nonstop. The offensive line didn't play great. I watched this game. It was on NFL Network. I'm like, I'm going to watch this whole thing. And Trey Lance was back there, and he's like a sitting duck for a lot of times. Now, this necessarily isn't Trey Lance's game. Trey Lance's game is, it's a pass and run option. He wasn't doing any of the run option stuff. He was just being down there under siege for most of this game. I honestly wonder if it's him or Darnold who's number 2, and I think it might be Darnold. Just the way that Darnold came in and had such composure. But Trey Lance, there was rumors that he was on the trading block. The Niners came back and said that's not true.
Well, it's not true because no one's going to trade for him.
That's another option. Like, who's making that trade for Trey Lance? We don't know what we're getting. One of the most fascinating players in the preseason is Trey Lance, and he certainly didn't light it up on Sunday, and he certainly didn't put his best foot forward, yet I don't know who would have, getting absolutely, just surrounded by the pass protection wasn't there either, and that's not really the offense he's been running as a pro. So my thing is a big, what's the word, incomplete or,
Seems like we've been saying that the whole time.
I know.
And that's the problem. Yeah. It's year 3, and you've got Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones all looking like competent leaders of NFL teams.
But why is it an incomplete and not like a D? Like, why?
Maybe it is a D, because I don't know if...
It's uncomfortable to give that high of a draft pick a D.
Had he been healthy last year, who knows what happens with the 49ers? Except he ran 16 times in 2 games, and he got hurt. So this wasn't anything to take away, and I certainly am not lighting up the Niners phone being like, we got to trade for him. Here's our second-round pick for next year. So not a great day for Trey Lance, but is anyone having a great day in those situations?
The crazy thing, if you just look at his stats, he was 10 of 15 with a touchdown, no interceptions, and it's 112 yards.
Take it
and
that
it's just
way. Great QB rating.
It's like, oh my goodness, great QB rating. But if you watch the game, it was not that at all. And Shreyas, you brought up a great point. As you look at last year, Trey Lance was going in. At this point, we kept talking about Jimmy G and his shoulder. We weren't even mentioning Brock Purdy, and the offense looked like it was being designed for Trey Lance to succeed. And now you can say he's being set up to fail. This, that, and the third. The truth of the matter is, Brock Purdy is the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. The offense that he will run and be comfortable in is not the same offense Trey Lance would run and be comfortable in. So now it becomes interesting when you look at who the backup quarterback is. Is it Trey Lance if you have to change and alter the entire offense if something happens to Brock Purdy? Or is it Sam Darnold who can possibly run the same type of offense? That, to me, is where the question lies. And for Trey Lance, is he better off somewhere else? And they may not be able to trade him, but maybe you get a later-round draft pick and you just give up on trading up and getting him all of those picks that you had to give up to get him. But at the same time, he just didn't look comfortable in that offense. He was under pressure, this, that, and the third. I don't know. It's too early to just give up on him, I think. You have 2 more preseasons. Let him go, preseason games. Let him go out there and compete.
Everything just looked hard. Like, it looked difficult for him. It looked like he was just having to try really hard. And the contrast of that is everything for Brock Purdy looks so easy. Like, I got this. I'm calm. My body language, I'm seamless. I can run it. I was just looking back at that trade that they made for Lance. Damn. It's so much. Like, all these first-round picks. And Shanahan has just decided, if you look back at it, I need to make some sort of nuclear strike. I need some sort of special weapon to get over the... In the end, he really, with Brock Purdy, he kind of just ended up with the Jimmy Garoppolo again, like, who is a guy who's smart and makes good decisions, and it really worked last year. The whole, like, we're going to run it and we're going to do this, too. Maybe he doesn't need that, or maybe he just overdrafted him, and maybe that's unfair. But if we start the season and Trey Lance is QB3 on the depth chart, I mean, you have a number 3 overall pick, a number 3 overall pick, and the last pick in the draft. It's the strangest quarterback room ever. But if Trey Lance is number 3 and he can't beat Sam Darnold, who's been around, and a lot of people have decided to part ways with Sam Darnold, I don't know what the future is with the organization, because unless you want to keep him there for a few years, but then you have to pay him, it's a mess. Shanahan made a really aggressive move, and it hasn't worked. It sucks.
I want to tiptoe into what I want to say about these quarterbacks, because it's in no offense to Trey Lance. Like, he's grinding. He's been hurt. He can't figure the situation out. But the things that we're saying about Trey Lance when he's not playing well in the preseason, I feel like is like you're using so many excuses in the book for a number 3 overall pick, where if Brock Purdy had done the things that Trey Lance is doing, which is getting taken down, not being able to scramble, can't execute a play, we just would have been like, of course, that's the last pick in the draft. That's how you would play. But Brock Purdy, a great point guard, or anyone that walks into a pickup game of anything, comes in and just plays. They figure out the system. They make plays. They make other people better around them. And that's what Brock Purdy had to do in Week 14 last year when he's just like, here's your job, son. Like, get it going. And he did. He figured it out. This Trey Lance experience, it's like, how many times, despite injury and whatnot, is not the offense he's been running as a pro, but I feel like he should be able to figure it out and make it work because he's a number 3 overall pick and he should have the skill set to make things go no matter the situation.
Yeah, last year's offense for the Niners had all the bells and whistles those first 2 weeks. It was read option. It was and Lance was running. He hurt his ankle running, and they had to scale back the offense significantly once Jimmy went down. And guess what? Once Brock Purdy showed he could do it, it was a whole different offense than what it was Week 1 and Week 2. So last night, to your point, it almost looked like they were trying to run the Brock Purdy offense and saying, Trey Lance, go run this.
Yeah.
And that's not his natural thing.
And that's the difference of being the starter and being the backup.
I'm not going to cater you and build the whole offense around you. So I don't know what the future is. And, like, you look at teams with connections to the Niners and who would ever trade for him. Like, I look at Minnesota. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was with him. Like, is that the trade? You send him back to his home state of Minnesota and just say, be the backup to Kirk Cousins, and we'll go from there. But no one's been lighting up the phone lines.
It's crazy because a year ago, he played in that preseason game against Jordan Love, chucks up one on the sideline, a beautiful pass, and all the hype was built around the type of year he was going to have. And it's just so hard to diminish the injury because, to your point, you said, Shrek, it's like, what could have been if he plays the entire year? And I know it didn't happen, but it's hard to just say, all right, he can't figure it out when he hasn't played that much
How old
football.
is he? I'm going to quickly Google here. I
got it right here. He's 23 years old.
23 years old. But you know what? The Jets gave up on Darnold when he was 23 years old. That's the NFL.
But Peter, if let's say like that is an interesting pathway. If the Vikings do go get him, like you got to do it now. So because Kirk's on his last year, like you have to figure out if Trey Lance works in your system. All of these things take time. They can't invest in a Trey Lance just to come in and learn and be like, you can be our guy when he's shown us something. I come back to Sam Howell over the weekend. Sam Howell's fighting for what he's doing with Washington. He had a 4th down scramble to convert, and then the next pass play was a touchdown. The next one, I'm watching Trey Lance highlights, and the stat line was great, and he threw for a touchdown, but it's like he looked like he was getting chased. He wasn't able to get out of some tenuous situations, and it was just like, dang, what's the best possible scenario for him? Because clearly the way the Brock Purdy offense is, that's not the best situation for Trey Lance.
We're never going to get a good one. He's not going to start behind the offensive line. He's not going to play with the first offense. We're not going to see him. We may never see him do that again. It was a crazy draft pick. Like, looking back on that one, I hope it's not, but that could be one of the all-time infamous ones. It wasn't just that he spent all that money on a player. He spent money on a player who had been out and was from a smaller program. And I just would love Shanahan to have the truth serum and be like, why did you love him that much?
What was it?
And if you wanted a guy who could run around and make plays, I think that was the same year as Justin Fields. You didn't like him? Like, he loved Trey Lance.
Meanwhile, we're watching that game. Aiden O'Connell, you drop him in, a guy who had all the experience in the Big Ten out of Purdue, and he's lighting it up, and he's confident. It's like, all right, well, the Raiders have a guy that we know because we saw him in college for 4 years, and it's the classic home run pick versus the safe pick, and here we are.
He swung out of his shoes on that one. I hope he connects. Who knows? But I don't know if we're ever going to get Trey Lance to get another chance. The season starts. It's Brock Purdy. He plays the whole year. Trey Lance, like, I don't get to play with Debo and McCaffrey. I'm just standing on the sideline. It's tough.
To your point, the Sam Darnold comparison, it may be a point where you're on another team and now you're competing against another guy to see who's going to be the starter. It's never going to be a situation as the team that drafts you that prepares to get you into the role.
He was on a golden platter last year at this time, and he unfortunately got hurt, and that's life.
And it feels like, and then we begin the Tampa Bay Buccaneers season. Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask.
Here we go.
It just keeps turning.
Baby.
Sometimes it all just comes up Bucks. Here we go. Preseason week 2 kicks off on Thursday night. Browns travel to Philly to battle the NFC champion Eagles. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, right here. It's your home for the 2023 preseason. Our home, NFL Network.